Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone. I'm running on fumes and flying solo today after... Wow, did any of you get to sleep or did any of you get any sleep? Because you know what, this morning you're probably right there with me following anxiety-filled. It seems like everything's anxiety-filled. Pittsburgh Steelers win 23-20 over the Cincinnati Bengals, climbing to 10-2. This is the Steel City Underground podcast presented by the official NFL photo store, and I am your host, like I said, by myself today, Joe Kuzma. That's right, not Brian, not the guy the host who doesn't like toast, as he likes to say. I love toast. I'm going to need it. I'm going to need coffee too. He doesn't like that either. He must not be, for being an early morning guy, Brian must not be a breakfast guy, but regardless, we've got so much to talk about. This game lived up to the hype, especially for Monday Night Football, where you put things on the calendar maybe back in like April or May, and you're not sure what matchups are going to be of any significance, if they're going to be competitive games with whatever hanging in the balance. And it looks that way maybe next week when the New England Patriots travel to play the Miami Dolphins. But Dolphins had a big win over the weekend too, so let's not take that away from them. This was a huge win for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well, and it wasn't always pretty. In fact, it was pretty frustrating, like I said, anxiety-filled, as my whole weekend was. If you're a college football fan, there was all kinds of craziness that was going on, especially if your teams just weren't beating the pants off of anybody. So unless you were maybe an Oklahoma fan, maybe or Clemson, things maybe not as smooth for everyone. And then, of course, ESPN had to drag on and drone on and blah, 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 and they couldn't name who the teams were. Just talk about it. Hey, you know what? I shouldn't criticize. I'm going to talk about this Monday Night Football game, and I got to talk about a lot of things, especially Jon Gruden, too, who I always thought was pretty much a fair guy, but man, did he seem like a homer last night. Let me tell you, and you know what, we probably all fall into this trap, but the only thing I couldn't understand with Jon Gruden, and what I mean by the trap is being biased. Obviously, I got the Steelers goggles on. I've never shied away from that. That's who I am. I don't like the Cincinnati Bengals. The player I probably dislike, I hate using the word hate, but it's pretty close to hate. I've never met him personally, but as a fan, an observer of professional football, I don't see how Vontaze Burfict can get a pass by anybody. A comment by Jon Gruden talking about how Vontaze Burfict talking about, well, the officials are looking at me for this or that, and now they're seeing maybe that other players just bait me or goad me into doing things. Are you kidding me, Gruden? You want to know why the officials, why the Zebras, the men in stripes who enforced the rules of this game, which were maybe poorly done depending on your opinion, do you know why they look at Vontaze Burfict? Do you have a clue? Because he is the example for dirty play between the whistles, after the whistles, dead ball fouls, personal fouls, unsportsmanlike conduct. Do you know what that means? Personal foul means an individual who does something they shouldn't do, an unsportsmanlike conduct, something that is unsporting and should not be a part of the game. And you have Jon Gruden defending this. And I'm going to get hot here for a second. I'm going to say, I'm going to pull back. I got to pull back because I'm going to say some things I probably shouldn't say. This is, first of all, a clean language podcast. There's no explicit language here. You guys know me. If you knew me away from this recording, you know that I could do my fair share of swearing when necessary, too. And I was doing it all Monday night, let me tell you. But to defend Vontaze Burfict, you see the first thing this guy does right out the gate? What? The turnover, interception, Ben Roethlisberger, flip the switch here, the defense gets the ball. Interception, I forgot who caught it. Pac-Man? Was it Pac-Man? Falls on the ground. And it's pretty much going to be a dead play if somebody tagged down. Vontaze Burfict turns around, and who does he look for first? He always looks for somebody to hit, but he's not going to go after a lineman. You think he's going to go after Ramon Foster, David DeCastro, or even Big Alejandro Villanueva? No, he looks for Le'Veon Bell, a guy he's hurt. This team has hurt Le'Veon Bell how many times? And they talk so much smack about him, as did Joe Mixon leading up to this. Vontaze Burfict actually spilling the beans on, I was incorrect on that, I think, on the WTF. It wasn't even Mixon that said it. It was secondhand. He probably said it, who knows, but it's secondhand info from Vontaze Burfict running his mouth saying that Mixon said it, or Mixon is every bit as good as Le'Veon Bell, or blah, 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 blah. Okay, we don't get a fair comparison here because Mixon got hurt in this game. A lot of guys got hurt in this game. Feel bad. The injuries, part of the game. Dirty play is not. And there were some unfortunate hits and side effects in this game. Can you trust Vontaze Burfict after how many times did he leave the game injured where the game was stopped and he comes back in? Maybe he seriously had an issue. Maybe they had to check out his arm. I could maybe buy it once. But this is a guy that criticized and said Antonio Brown faked a concussion. And we all know what I'm going to bring up, the JuJu hit on Burfict. And I think if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you loved it. If you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you absolutely hate it. And it's just going to keep going back and forth because this is what happens in these games. I tweeted out, I said vigilante justice. It's when the referees are throwing flags for stuff that's really inconsequential, or things they're making up, or things they're not sure they see, bad angles. I think that was the whole blah, blah, blah. Martavis Bryant touchdown comeback. Can't even complain about that because A.J. Green probably should have had a touchdown on a big play down the field. Momentum shifting plays. And you have Jon Gruden sitting up in the booth saying, let him play. And then guys start killing each other out there. But Burfict bringing it on himself. If you noticed in this game, and I'm not saying everybody on the Bengals is dirty. I'm not trying to accuse people of being cheaters. But you have an individual or two. Some of those guys are no longer there, by the way, from the previous years. They've left free agency or out of the league or whatever. But the main culprit is Burfict. And if you watch, who has a bad toe entering this game? Antonio Brown. My goodness, what the GOAT. You cannot call him anything but the GOAT. If you don't know what the GOAT stands for, it's an acronym. It means greatest of all time. And he was targeted 15 times in this game. 8 catches, could have had more, 101 yards and a touchdown. For a second time in as many weeks, Le'Veon Bell, huge in the passing game too. 5 catches on 6 targets, 106 yards and a TD. And I said, could he be the wide receiver too? Well, there's his first receiving touchdown of the year, which I'll come back to as soon as I get done with the Burfict thing. Shouldn't really take up my whole focus of time here, but there's a few things I have to clear my mind. When this guy's constantly doing stuff, and who knows what he's saying, who knows what he's doing. He's been accused of spitting people in piles and throwing punches and knees. You just watch him. Just everything he does seems to be extracurricular. Is he really trying to throw a block? Think about where the interception occurs on this play. If you're a defender and you're facing upfield towards the end zone, towards the goal line that you are attacking, or you would be running towards if you were trying to score a touchdown, okay? Visualize this. You're picking off Big Ben. You're on the right side of the hash marks. Vontaze Burfict is all the way on the left side of the field, and Le'Veon Bell is even further on the left side of the field. And I don't know, maybe Bell runs up to him. This is possible. But Bell gets a cheap flag because Burfict's in his face and won't move back. Now, where are the officials at? How many guys are out here? 7, 8 guys? Nobody's watching this early in the game and doesn't know who Vontaze Burfict is, because after all, they're watching him because players are just baiting him, right? I mean, this is Vontaze Burfict that tells us this. I trust this information is good. The officials, that's all they do is watch everything because they just want to slap his hands. So if that's the case, why are they not watching him on this right now at this very moment? You should bring out like an extra guy and just put him up, I don't know, put him in the press box or something, an extra official, and just have him follow this guy. He's a known problem player. Dirty hits. Of course, the Gronk hit from the other day, too. Holy cow. Talk about dirty and no place in the game and can hurt people. Speaking of hurt, we got to take a pause in a moment because we all hope that Ryan Shazier is okay. I truly, I don't know the way I want to necessarily frame this, but Pittsburgh Steelers organization, by saying as little as possible and not saying certain things, is very classy and professional of them, very thoughtful of friends and family and other players and those all connected with Shazier. As far as I know, he was being held an additional day for further evaluation. A lot of the news saying maybe not as bad as initially thought. We have some opinions here. Of course, Terry Fletcher here, who's one of our experts, and then she gets to speak with various very, what do you want to say, highly educated and well-respected people within the medical field, the healthcare industry, surgeons and whatnot. And trust me, I know very little about that, so I'll try and tiptoe and say as little as possible as well. But I don't want to say this is her opinion, but we're of the opinion from all of the things we've collected, like Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and other reports that were coming out, that maybe this isn't going to be like, let's put it this way, life altering. And there's more than likely hope that Ryan Shazier will end up being okay and will probably be back this season. That's just scratching the surface. We really don't know yet. He underwent CTE and an MRI on his back. So thoughts and prayers to Ryan Shazier. Thoughts and prayers to everybody that really got hurt. Vontaze Burfict got rocked by JuJu Smith-Schuster. And that is definitely a byproduct of all of his BS shenanigans. And let me tell you, that play that busts open there, what do you think Burfict is doing at that very moment in time where he lowers his head? He's starting to lower to try and lower the boom on Bell. Go low. You could see it. You could definitely see it. JuJu Smith-Schuster. Now, I'm going to have a piece on this, and I hate even opining on it, not only on little sleep and little memory of only catching a few replays of this hit. There is a Hines Ward rule. Was it peel back block? And it's basically because Hines, it seems like they make a rule anytime the Steelers or the Patriots, any team that's successful can do anything. You had it in the 70s. I mean, you used to be able to just hit receivers whenever, and Mel Blount, we all know the culprits if you're talking about the Steelers, and they just show all the different things. Kimo von Oelhoffen's hit on Palmer, they brought that up last night. They brought up an older one that I don't know that I was born or alive to watch football on, and then, of course, Hines Ward hitting people. And I don't think what JuJu Smith-Schuster did was necessarily dirty. I was a little confused, and I am confused, and like I said, I gotta polish up on the rules, and I may circle back to this, or you can visit over at steelcityunderground.com, and we'll put something up like we always do this series called You Make the Call. And basically what I do with that is I want to question, I want people to watch it, because there's so many varying opinions, and you apply the black and white NFL rule as it's stated, and I don't put the whole rule book in there because it's, it's like the most boring thing you're going to read. But when you're trying to apply it to a specific film clip, we'll put it this way. I think Juju's going to get a fine because the NFL is totally gutless, and this is what they do. They fine people, they suspend people, they all depends on what it is. And there's a lot of fans that were upset that Gronk only got one game for that hit. If you didn't see it, he landed on a guy like that was completely out of bounds and laying on his stomach, and he just like lands on top of him like a rag doll. He nails him in the back of the head neck area, and he gets game suspension. And I was like, really, when you got two guys that get in a fight and a guy's like grabbing someone's chain, and you only give like a game for that. And then there's something else, shoving a referee, and you get one game for that. You really think you're going to get any more than one game, especially when he's not a repeat offender like a Vontaze Burfict. So with Vontaze Burfict, and this is totally a Yinzer saying here, but I got to go with the old, for those of you who are the pro wrestling types, the old Buddy Rogers saying of it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And that's exactly what this game was at that point. He was asking for it, and it was coming from someone. And I don't even know that JuJu necessarily saw what's Burfict wear, 50 or 55. I don't think he saw those numbers and just went straight to him. I think he saw somebody in his path that was about to hit his teammate, his running back, and saw an opportunity to free him up. And this now 21 years young player embarrasses Vontaze Burfict, a guy who makes a reputation for hitting people hard. And you know why it looks like he hits people hard? It's because he does it at times where players are off the ball. He lit up Max Williams before with the Ravens, opposite side of the field. Same situation I was just talking about. Where a play goes to the right and he hits Max, who's off to the left, and just helmet to helmet. And nobody sees it, of course, then either. We know the hit on to Antonio Brown. We know all of the other stuff where he crushes and lays all of his weight on Ben Roethlisberger and starts giving him some MMA knees, and he's like wiggling and crawling, like he's applying as much weight as possible on top of him. Like I said, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Certainly all of this is built up, whether it's within one game or a series of games. It's going to continue until this guy is out of the league. He's not going to change his behavior. It's also clear that the Cincinnati Bengals, from all indications in the past, he's protected and defended by their defensive coordinator, Paul Guenther, by head coach Marvin Lewis. How do you think people feel about Marvin Lewis this morning in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area? I said Northern Kentucky first for a reason. The guy loses another game to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's up 17-0. Looks like they're rolling. I got that pit in my stomach. I'm as disgusted as anybody else, trust me, through that first half, up until you don't give the Steelers the ball back. We saw what happened the week before with like 17 seconds on the clock or 38 seconds on the clock or whatever the heck it was. Like I said, running on fumes and coffee, folks, and by myself. Need some help here. You don't give Big Ben the ball. And they march down the field, and Boswell gets 3 points, and much-needed 3 points. That guy's got ice in his veins. He goes from that 21 for 21 in his career against the Cincinnati Bengals to 24 for 24 now, a 30-yarder, a 37-yarder, a 38-yarder, so all under 40 yards. In fact, the one that would be the game winner, Bengals get, how about this? Offside, guy continues through, makes contact. Now, I said it wasn't necessarily dirty, okay? But in the context of this entire game and all the shenanigans that have gone on, how can you allow this guy to continue? Can somebody just step through and make sure he doesn't, like, run over Jordan Berry, the holder, who's, like, in a very vulnerable prone position, or Boswell, who continued to start to kick the ball, because kickers follow through. It's like basketball, you know, when they call a foul and the guy still shoots the ball, almost like practice. Although that's always annoyed me, both when the field goal kickers do it and in the NBA. But Boswell, like, kind of kicks him, makes like shin-to-shin contact. These aren't soccer players with shin guards on. That's like bone on bone. He may even hit his cleats, which cleats to bone isn't, not football cleats either. Not good. And I think this happened last year with like the Baltimore Ravens. It's almost like you could just run someone out intentionally offside, maybe with, quote, intent to injure, but let's make it look like an accident. What if he would have hurt Berry or Boswell there? Then you don't have a holder? God forbid, I don't know who the backup holder is. I really don't. Probably Landry Jones is my guess. Josh Dobbs could be too, but he was inactive for that game. So, what do you do? Oh, you get a few extra yards. You can move it up 5 yards. Wow, gee, thanks. Now I don't have a guy that could kick a field goal or somebody could hold the snap. And it wasn't necessarily a pretty snap, but I think the whistles were already blown and Jordan Berry didn't complete the entire catch the ball, put it down, rotate the laces out. Man, talk about making me nervous. Chris Boswell tying his shoe on the sideline with like less than a minute left. Who does that? I'd be afraid I tie it too tight. It was raining. It's wet. Like, it's crazy. That's crazy talk. Maybe he likes it real tight. I don't know. These guys wear, like, the two different shoes, too, like the soccer shoe and everything. That's crazy. That stuff, like, blows my mind. I'd like to talk about some good things in this game. It's just very difficult to find because I continue wanting to complain about Jon Gruden and his just off-base comments about how these flags were so-so. I mean, rules are in place for a reason. If you think you saw what you saw, you're not going to say, no, I didn't see that, and choke on your whistle or keep your flag in your pocket. That's not how this works. You know what I mean? So he says, let him play. Then you get the JuJu hit on Burfict. Oh, that's so dirty. And JuJu leads with his shoulder, like I said. This right into his chest, just buries him. Okay? Call it what you will. Like I said, I don't know the legality of that yet. Haven't read the rules. Too tired to do that. Fine print, But legal, not legal. Vigilante justice either way, right? The taunting, absolutely terrible because JuJu, you got to know better. If you just stand there, yeah, you're going to let the guy know who hit him. But stood over top of him, I think the thing that was really missed upon that wasn't just that Burfict landed underneath him. JuJu literally took a step over top of him and stood over him and talked some smack. Let me tell you, that really gave an injection into the Steelers, just a shot in the arm for the Steelers offense. I actually thought they got a first down on the play, but they didn't. I think it ended up being 2nd and 16. So it wasn't like it drove the ball back in a replay. It's a spot foul. So that's the saving grace and all that, is that they really didn't lose much yards from the first play, from that actual play, from their original line of scrimmage. But you move ahead to the Antonio Brown touchdown that's just a couple plays later. And he gets absolutely rocked. George Iloka. Helmet. Heat-seeking helmet. Bengals fans, I know you're not listening to this, but for those of you Steelers fans that listen to me, thank you once again. And you have a Bengals fan that's all over your case about Mike Mitchell, who was out. He didn't play in this game. Talking about dirty hits. Just show them this George Iloka hit and say, what's that? That's probably as dirty or dirtier than anything. And it's obviously, yeah, it's part of football. That's the part they're trying to get rid of. Do I think he's necessarily headhunting? I can't say. The temperature in this game was rising. It was boiling over because no one's taking care of business. They're throwing a flag here or a flag there. And you know what? Before I get onto those flags, I got two situations in this game that are just absolutely insane because I think players were afraid of getting flagged. I want to remind all of our listeners that the NFL Photo Store is an official partner and sponsor of the Steel City Underground podcast. Steelers fans, go out there. You could score photos of top plays and your favorite players, just like Le'Veon Bell tiptoeing along the sideline there. God, Steelers only had 3 points that time, 17-3. Oh, I'm going to cover that in a second. So if you're interested, maybe a photo. Maybe you could take that little photo finish, a little bit of the grass in between Bell's feet and the sideline. Go over to steelcityunderground.com/photos. And from there, you can click on a link that'll take you to the Pittsburgh Steelers official online photo store. And, of course, that's attached to the entire NFL. So if you do have people in your family, like I do, unfortunately, Browns fans, maybe you want to get a photo or one of these nice canvas or metal prints off the site. And if you find something that really catches your eye, you're shopping for the holiday season here, Christmas gifts, 25% off. If you enter the promo code Steel City, that's good through the end of this year. New photos are added every week. So steelcityunderground.com/photos for the NFL photo store, or steelers.photos.nfl.com also works. But like I said, that's hard to remember. A lot of things are hard to remember. I'm going to backtrack here. Like I said, 17-3. And Le'Veon Bell tiptoes along the sidelines, and William Jackson, after just making a play on Antonio Brown, doesn't like push. There's Evans, he's a backup. They don't force Le'Veon Bell out of bounds off this little dump off pass from Big Ben. And I made a comment. I can't remember if it happened before or after, but you could clearly remember Bud Dupree having a sure sack on Andy Dalton, has him wrapped up around the waist, and then nothing. He doesn't bring him down. And I think people are wondering, well, what's the deal with that? Fear. That's what it is. WJ3 on Bell, Bud on Dalton. Fear. Fear of being penalized, fear of being flagged, fear of being fined. No late hits, no roughing the passer. It's in their head now. You could clearly see it in that game, depending on who the players were. Wasn't in JuJu's head, but maybe he's just too young, inexperienced, raw for it to get to him. Dupree, we all know what he did with Matt Moore a year earlier. That's got to be weighing in on him. I don't think he was coming in like a heat-seeking missile like that. But maybe at the same time, I think he thought, I have him kind of grabbed. And if he's already upright, this is like flag football. You get the quarterback, and immediately when you have him in a position like that, they're almost nearly blowing the whistle. What happens if you drive him to the ground? There was a shot on Ben where he was hit from behind in that game too. I don't think these little things don't add up and add to this environment or atmosphere. The one thing you could probably take solace in knowing, though, is not only did the Steelers beat the Bengals, sweep them again this season, and beat them in their house, they don't have to see them the rest of the season. So that's out of the way. Unfortunately, some of the hits, some of what was taken away really, really could impact the playoffs, just like it always does when they play, I don't know, this Bengals team. This always happens. So aside from Shazier, you lose Tyler Matakevich, and for those who don't know, those guys are the quarterbacks. That's the position, that's the play caller. Vince Williams has done some of that before in his career, but that was handed over to Ryan Shazier years ago. Matakevich is Shazier's backup. Both of them leave the game, and you have LJ Fort. LJ Fort's a guy that is always fighting to stay on the roster. Athletic, but clearly you're dealing with a third-string player. And then one of the other, what else? Cody Sensabaugh getting beat pretty bad. You put a rookie out there who was just activated, Cam Sutton, who most of us probably forgot about because he was practicing right after Hayden got hurt. He went out there. He did an all right job. Let's say that. You have Robert Golden in for Mike Mitchell as well. And then don't forget, you got to rotate these players in and out. I mean, Artie Burns isn't leaving the field. Sean Davis isn't leaving the field. Vince Williams, I don't know. I haven't looked at the snap counts, but lucky for everyone here, I have them in front of me, and they actually published them. So this is also cool. Let's see. I'm doubting that Vince Williams left very often. He did not, 84% of the game. Your game highs, obviously, Robert Golden, all of the guys in the secondary usually play a full game. So Robert Golden, Artie Burns, Sean Davis, and then Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward, they come off for a few plays, as did TJ Watt, Bud Dupree. I think getting Mike Hilton out there, he looked kind of like he was a ghost and a long-forgotten guy for a period of time in this game. But once they got him in there, man, is he a game changer. False start, just the pressure. He had a nice pass breakup. Those small little things all are part of the big picture in this Steelers victory. The first half of the game, not too sharp at all. I don't know if the Steelers even converted a first down. Got to go back here to the first half's summary. And, of course, things don't want to work for me. Let's see. First down, Steelers, third down. Efficiency, 1 of 5, and they allowed the Bengals to go 6 of 8, 75%. Really a tale of two halves. The Bengals had a crazy amount of time of possession. It was over 19 minutes. The Steelers had roughly 11. when you have the composite time there for the first half. So Bengals held on to the ball, and then they got it to start the second half. So that 3-and-out was huge. Steelers outgained 253 yards to 126. The penalties still weren't terrible. They weren't at the best time or situation, but 2 for 20. And, of course, red zone efficiency, 0 for 1, even though they got in the red zone. And let me tell you, the pass interference calls, those were mostly good. They could have even called 1 or maybe 2 more. Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown people didn't even know if he was going to play because of his toe. So, good Lord, the guys are so good. The Steelers receivers really stepping it up. I said Big Ben had to take over that game, and Le'Veon Bell needed to have enough touches because he is game changer too, as seen by the 1 touchdown. Antonio holding on to the other one, amazing. Bell had 18 carries for 76 yards. James Conner, the Thunder to Bell's Lightning, had a 10-yard long, an average of 4 yards carry. Bell had 4.2. Did pretty good. The little bootleg by Ben, that 1 for 4 yards, fooled everyone. Slow as molasses, but still love Big Ben. But anyways, folks, the most important thing that comes out of this, a win is a win. I know people will say, oh, well, New England wins decisively. My cousin tells me this crap all the time. You ever watch a New England game that comes down to a Steven Gostkowski last-minute field goal? Of course you have. Of course you have, even this season. So, pretty sure even this season, I want to say that Tampa Bay game where that came down to one of their guys missing like 3, 4, 5,000 times in that game. They could have lost on the road to Tampa. That was a Thursday night game in a short week, of course. So not to make excuses for anyone, those are always rough, especially when you're the road team. Just ask the Tennessee Titans when they came to Pittsburgh. But a win is a win. Steelers keep it going. What are we at now? Like I said, running on fumes. 10-2. I may have said 9-2 or 11-2. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm all over. 10-2, 23-20 win. Bengals dropped to 5-7. Pretty much, they're almost out of the wild card race. You got another team in the Baltimore Ravens who handled the Detroit Lions 44-20. They're still scoring a lot on defense and whatnot. So they're going to come to town, and that's going to be a crazy game that we're going to be highlighting here in the very near future. So, folks, hope you enjoyed the show. I'm sure you got a lot of things to say about a lot of topics, JuJu, Burfict, and the whole lot. Thoughts and prayers out to Ryan Shazier, a few of the other guys who got banged up in this game. Steelers playing mostly with backup defense and wearing their thoughts, their hearts on their sleeve in this game. They got it done, and now they get 2 home games coming up, try and seal the deal and maybe the top seed in the AFC. So we want to hear from you. Fan mail at steelcityunderground.com, hotline 203-900-4728. Until next time, my name is Joe Kuzma. Be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.